In the journey, we as coaches stumble through challenges, gripped by fear, the fear of failure, the fear of having a niche, the fear of showing up on LinkedIn, the fear of asking for support, and the fear of taking that very first step into the world of coaching. Talking of fears, I'd like to share a small post which appeared on LinkedIn, which goes like this. I came across a book that said, working out will make you feel weak when it's actually making you feel stronger. Learning new things will make you feel dumb when it's actually making you smarter. Investing in yourself will will make you feel dumb, actually making you richer. Facing your fears will make you terrified when it's actually making you braver. Never hold yourself back. Strive to be a better tomorrow than you were today. I, along with Money, met the coach with Regal, have with us four wonderful coaches: Bhavani Joyce, Sutish Balasubramaniam, Suhas Kulkarni, and Chatura Kalansurya. We've gone through the journey and would like to have them reflect and explore some of these questions during our session today. Money?
Sure. Thanks, Srinath, for setting the stage by quoting that wonderful, post from LinkedIn, and you brought out clearly the contradictions which come when we talk about our journeys, right? Fear, especially, is a very strange kind of companion. So, it can help us survive because that's probably a natural instinct, but can also block us from thriving, right? And I think as coaches, we all sit across our clients, helping them discover their fears and to look at that in eye, and at times to figure out how to move past it. But we as coaches also every day feel it much larger, much sharper, and I think more personal, in a very different way, right? So what we have today, as Srinath talked about, is some of us coming together and talking about our own journeys, how we have struggled with these fears, which are very real, how we have been helped by this program called Coaching Unlimited, where we've been able to look at these fears differently and able to manage, go past some of that. It's not that the fear has disappeared, but it's that we have learned how to work with it, right? So in that space where we're talking about, between hesitation and visibility, or between knowing and doing, or between that fear and courageous action, that's where we are going to be there today for the whole next 1 hour. So as Srinath said, we have four wonderful coaches in addition to me and Srinath, and I can say it with conviction that all of them have walked this path, because we have seen them come out and talk about it in various forums. So why are we doing it today? I think that's important to talk about. So 2 weeks back, we had a similar conversation between Subhash and PK Narayanan, who are the mentors in Coaching Unlimited, and they gave the perspective from mentors' point of view. And today we are here from a participant point of view, where we are talking about how we have experienced this and what has come out of it. Yeah. So I'm also, sharing this, whoever is joining us, whether you're a practicing coach or if you're someone who has uh, ever held back from being fully seen, because we talked about LinkedIn, so I'm talking about that. I think you are in a good conversation today, because what we are going to talk about is what you can do in spite of fear. Yeah. So Bhavani, I want to invite you, to maybe set the ball rolling. So as coaches, we are trained to hold space for others, right? And yet many of us are paralyzed at times. I'm using that word because inertia sets in very quickly when you have fear. So it could be about visibility, it could be about failure, it could be about rejection. So in your view, from your journey, what do you think really causes coaches to be, affected by this fear?
I think obviously the logical answer is fear of failure, but I think I would say it's the fear of change of identity, actually. Okay, for me personally, so when you're stepping out, none of us choose coaching as our first profession, right? So we've been something, it's done well for us, and then you're being something else, and coming out with that for the first time, it's like giving up. It's like, so going back it's another kind of failure. So you have to move forward only when you know for sure you're going to make this work. And I think in this piece, the real medicine, so to speak, is connecting with your values and asking yourself, is that future journey really going to, is backwards even an option once you've made a decision? And I think I would probably share my experience with CU in this context now, because it was at this moment, I also believe that, when they say that, when the student is ready, the guru appears, it's almost like you will go to CU when it is your time, you need it. It's the medicine you need in that moment. So for me, it was April 22, and I had just in 21 December, I agreed with my boss at Infi that I'm going to go part-time. So I'm making this commitment now, right? So I'm stepping out of that. This is who you used to be and to who you're going to be. And April 22 is when I actually went part-time for the first time, April 22. And I had no plan, nothing. I'm here. This whole march up to this point, it's become a reality. And I was coaching less. I just got my ACC. I just got my ACC. I was coaching less. I was like, oh my God, I've made this commitment. So CU was very timely for me in that sense, because one, I got to realize some of my CU, I've seen one CU participant who was in my batch here in the call as well. I got to realize my competencies was not where I thought it would be. So it was a real reset and refresher for coaching mastery in the sense. And I got a reset that I can do this. And the second piece for me was, a lot of the debates we have in our head. I think in CU, you have the debate outside your head.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of times you're wrestling with questions and answers. We're coaches. We probably have all the answers we need, actually, but it's the wrestling process that has to happen. And when you have another mentor coach, somebody who's walked the path, senior to you, in front of you, then your wrestling is outside. And it's still your answer. It doesn't mean that everything they say is sacrosanct. But when you debate outside, there's more clarity. And when I say debate, I use the word consciously because you are struggling to let go of your perceived answers. And so what happened for me was, the business of coaching side. Here I am making a commitment, and the business of coaching piece, which I still remember PK was talking about the fact that you pick a niche, and he had drawn this whole thing on the wall. If you want this many leads, you need to get this many, what's your opening funnel? And he said, how on earth would 1.4 billion people find you without a niche? And I was imagining that, if you can just visualize that metaphor, you are nothing in this ocean of people. And so there's no brainer, the niche part. So I got my niche more or less sorted out. Then he was like, pick a discipline. Are you a coach or are you more than a coach? And that's I really struggled, and I chose not to be a pure coach. I coach, but I kind of do what the client needs from me, and coaching is top of my offering. But I've decided that that's what, and it feeds me. It feeds me in a sense. It feeds my energy. So all that debate happens in that safe space. So I would just end this by saying that after coming out of CU, I registered. April was when CU happened. In June that year, 2 months later, I registered my company. I found the accountant. I got all that sorted out. And then the journey continues. We're 3 years later now. So I thought, long answer to a short question, but I thought
those are some very powerful points which you made, Bhavani, and I picked up three. I just want to reiterate so that we don't lose them. One is the change of identity, which you talked about. And such a wonderful point. And that reset and refresh, and then the debates in the mind, how they come outside. And I saw Chatura giving a very knowing smile there. So, would you want to add something, Chatura?
Yeah, thank you, Mani, for that. And yes, great to be here. And I do agree with Bhavani. And let's say, my takeaway about fear from CU was that I used to look into coaching as something, very separate, something that is very, secluded. But CU helped me realize that it's another business. So looking at it in the perception of a business. Now, if it is a business now, I've been an entrepreneur for, more than a decade now. And all I did was, sales and marketing, and that's like my core. But coaching was something secluded and, separated from what I was doing. And CU helped me realize, okay, this is going to be another business. So if it is a business, You have to market yourself, you have to stand out from the crowd, and you have to put on that identity again, what Bhavani very rightly mentioned. So I had to put on that identity and started looking it in the perception of another business. So that is one of my key takeaways from CU, and that helped me fight that and face that fear, right? I
Yeah.
was afraid how I'm going to tackle this, and I realized, okay, this is another business. Now, when you're in that part, then all of us as entrepreneurs and as professionals, we know, okay, how we can do a business. So you need to do the marketing, you have to, be someone so that the people or the client is willing to pay you to get your
Right.
service. So it's just like consulting or any other business. And that perception entirely shifted, that it got completely shifted after I participated in CU, and that actually helped me see this in a business perspective and helped me, face that fear. So that would be my, the major, takeaway from the CU, basically the first, first learning, one of the biggest
So
learning.
when you put it this way, Chatra, I'm reminded of how when we come for the first few sessions in coaching journey, many of us say that we want to help others through coaching, and when you talk about it, it's also another business. I think it puts it into right perspective, right? While helping others, it can also be a business. I'm kind of intrigued in asking this, Suhas. You are not actively coaching. You're part of an organization, and probably internally you are using it. How does this component come in play for you? This fear part.
Yeah, I think Chatura is right about understanding this as a separate business as such, and that kind of also chimed with me because when I did one of my first workshops also with CU, I think it is going back to the question you asked about fear, the fear of starting. But I think there is no starting point. I mean, starting anytime is starting now. So the only point is to start, and you need to take ownership of that because you are being accountable to yourself, and that being accountable, um, really synced with me because as a business head, when I'm handling a business, we take ownership and we always ask the team members, including myself and also myself, be accountable. And I
Yeah.
think we always think that we will start this someday, and that is a separate me. But actually, it's not a separate me, it's you. And once you understand that you are bringing yourself completely into the room all the time, you're being aware, and that leads you into being a coach all the time. So today, I don't carry a separate hat as a coach. I wear that hat all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, like right now, I'm in business, and I am in the middle of a business meeting, and uh, we had this discussion planned. So I'm actually taking time out, and I am myself, either there or here. It's not a difference to house Kulkarni that you see here. So as a coach, I think if you're more aware, and if you're wearing the
Yeah.
coaching hat all the time, you practice it all the time.
Wow, that's wonderful, right? You don't need to really look at changing hats. Yeah. So how do we take this forward, Srinath? What comes next to your mind when we talk of fear
Right. So
after that?
Bhavani did briefly about it, about having a niche,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Many, many feel that by narrowing down to a niche, they will lose opportunities in the market from potential clients, right? So how could coaches balance this necessity of having a niche versus the need to serve wider set of clients? So, Sutish, would you like to talk about this?
Um, yes. Thanks, Rina. Yeah. So this question, yeah, of course, that there is a element of fear that you will have when you try to narrow down that you're losing out a lot. Um, but the world is different. There's a lot of fish in the ocean, right? And think if if you're going to be one of many, uh, you have to really look at it through the lens of your client or your customer, right? Why should he or she should come to you as against when there are so many around you, right? So that is one aspect that you need to be very specific or take very so you need to differentiate yourself. I mean, this is what we have gone through in business, time after time. Any business you take, you only stand out when you have a differentiation. It's talking about differentiation. Otherwise, you are very general, and I think you get lost in the ocean. And when you have that niche, a lot of things builds up with it. There is a saying that we follow that, instead of doing uh, uh, 1,000 times, 6 things, 1,000 times 6 things, it's better to do 6 things 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
When you do that, it's helping you for you to specialize. You're learning from each and every one of the session. You're building up yourself. You're specializing into it. That's one that happens. Also, so when you see that once you build up, and then that's the client is going to see that, right? And so that's going to make a difference when you and you become also very comfortable in the whole process. You become passionate about what you're doing, because then otherwise when you're doing many different things, the fear factor also you tend to rise. You don't know what you're in for. There is a lot of all the time you're in the unknowing field. So it's that can have an impact on your coaching, your being, state, and your fully presence. You're going to be nervous about the whole thing, how the whole thing's going to end up. So these are some of the factors that comes in as the niche makes a big difference. I think, being my past experience, picking up what you're good at, stay with it, and keep improving. That the continuous improvement matters, and that can happen only when you have a niche.
No, I can share, my experience with finding my niche. I attended CU in December 2022. I was just on the verge of getting my PCC. And strangely, I used to think that niche is about solving a particular problem or about a particular product. I think one of the clarities I got it's about a demography. It's not about a product. It's about the set of people who you want to really cater to. I think that, it may sound very small, but for me, it was a huge shift, just that and being able to think. And a lot of times, when we think of niche, we feel that we are going to shrink in terms of, what's going to come our way. But I think as PK talks about, it's focus. It helps us channel all our energy into one direction and see that what is the best I can get by serving this particular set of people. I think that's a difference when you think about niche. And
Thanks.
it's difficult to absorb that concept. But yeah, once you see the benefits of it, I think that's a change which comes.
Mani, if I may add
Exactly.
just one point, if I just on that.
Yes.
So I struggled as well for a long time, and two takeaways for me. When my journey as a coach started in 2013, and back in 2013, my nights at night I would go to sleep thinking of domain names for my niche. Okay, and I even bought some of these domain names because they're all lapsed now. And after lots of coaching conversations, I picked that same niche that I picked in 2013 in 2022. So just to give you, our gut is not there it's there for a reason, and we instinctively know who we want to serve, just like that. So that's my first takeaway. Go with your gut. You know who you want to serve. Then I had this debate with myself, but how will I get enough people and all of that? So unfortunately, LinkedIn has removed this feature, but it really, really helped me make perspective. I went to LinkedIn and I said, okay, this is my niche now, finally. And I searched, who is my buyer? Because I might have a niche, who's my buyer, right? My buyer is the chief of X, for example. So I serve the audit and risk community. There are people who do that outside of India, not many in India. And I went on LinkedIn and I said, Chief Risk Officer or Chief Audit Executive. And there are 5,000 in each of those in India.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it will take me multiple clones of me this lifetime to serve that many customers. right?
True.
So while they may not know me, and only 1,000 of those people are in my current first or second contact, which means I haven't even reached them yet. So that gives me a perspective, Bhavani, your customer doesn't know you yet. It's not that they don't exist.
I think that's the movement from the state of scarcity to state of abundance, right?
Absolutely.
And then you see that it's not shrinking; it's bringing in much more. So, Srinath, a question to you, something which just came up. So, when we are talking about moving from the space of finding a niche and putting ourselves out, right? That first step at times could be even more daunting. There we have, like Bhavani said, a change of identity, and now you're also talking about what you do to a particular segment. What do you think are the practical, things a coach needs to have in place so that you can take that first step? Because we talk about starting trouble. I think it's very relevant for us.
Oh, yes, it is very scary indeed, right? I talked about the fear earlier. But first steps could be talk to people you work with, your uh, uh, people whom you know, and then go tell a small group of people saying that, I've got into coaching now. Would you be interested? Would you know someone who would be interested in coaching? So that could be, look at the small steps first. Don't look at going to organizations right away and say that I'm into coaching. Or would you offer me a coaching assignment? So that's one thing. So again, other things could be in terms of uh, again, making yourself visible, right? This could be on public platforms like LinkedIn, right? Maybe in fact, not started as yet, but then give some small talk somewhere. Socialize the concept that you are coaching to your friend circle and outside your circle as well. So these are some of the small things you could do in the beginning.
So it's sounding more like not like a giant leap, but a series of small steps, right? You
Yes,
keep taking those small steps and they compound to make something work, right?
exactly.
How have you experienced this, Chatura? You have moved very quickly from the space of being learning to be a coach and then starting your coaching, and I've seen you have your website and a lot of stuff. So, what do you want to share?
Yeah. In case of me, Mani, I'll tell how it changed. In the sense, now when again connecting to the first point, when I started looking at this as a business, then first thing is now we have learned as coaches that we don't need to know about the domain or the problem or the reason that the client or the coach is coming to us. We don't have to have that knowledge in that domain to help them or empower them to understand and find the solutions, because as primarily we believe the client or the coach is complete and they know their answers. So we are just like a mirror reflecting to help them and empower them to see and find the solution. But the question and the clarity came to me was that how would someone trust me to
Mm.
pay to help them realize this? Now, getting them realized, anyone, if you follow the competencies and the structures at the end of the session, yes, the coachee will have that awareness. But in order to reach that state, the coachee or the client should convert and you should pay you first. Now, that is
Mm.
where I think the niche come into play, and I think I shared this as a reflection after CU also. It was all about C 7.3. For
Mm-hmm.
me, the CU was 7.3, basically sharing the knowledge without any attachments with the coachee. Now, asking that right question comes from the expertise in your niche. So I feel that is the most powerful realization I had. So I know my domain, and with that awareness, I'm asking that question from the client. So it's not a generic question. If it is in your domain, for an example, what I do is related to entrepreneurs and public speaking. I'm a speaking coach. So I have the knowledge and I know, okay, right questions to ask. So the depth of the question will determine how reflective the coachee will be in terms of responding into the question. Now, to ask that question, knowing that niche is helping so much. So I think that helped me, that pinpointing that niche is helping the client to reflect on it. And as a coach, it empowers me to ask a very deep question which is relevant to that client. And that made the whole, it completely flipped my perception about. So I use this thing, the perception evolved about coaching. So even on my website, it doesn't say coaching, as Suhas very rightly said. So it doesn't say about coaching because the client doesn't need to know whether we are using coaching, consulting, mentoring, teaching, training. They just need the results. So we are using the coaching framework and that learnings we had, which is very powerful to help them realize that. And coachee doesn't need to know exactly, okay, I'm a ICF coach, so I'm a accredited coach, I'm using this framework. Okay, we are at 8.1, 8.2. They don't need to know. They need the results. So as a business, they see me as a trustworthy person, or they are trusting me to pay money for the coaching, and I'm using the coaching approach with the knowledge that I have to ask the right question. So I'm pinpointing 7.3 again, that asking
7.5, yeah.
sorry, 7.5, so that it helps the client to reflect deeper and have probably a breakthrough or a flip in their understanding. And I can be a better mirror if I'm in that domain. So that's my understanding and my realization about the niche and selecting that niche.
Sure. I think where
So
you're coming
and
from,
one more
Chitra.
thing, Mani.
Yeah. Sure, carry on.
Yeah,
Okay,
Mani, can I
so
just say something came to my mind? I think when we were at this CEO session, some of the research figures that was revealed was startling. No, the ones who were with and who were successful, and the majority was unsuccessful because the particular reason, because they didn't have the niche. And figures were really, I mean, it was about 3%, or it was a single digit figure out of so many coaches. I mean, that kind of reinforces the the principle of need to have that differentiation and the niche for you to really be out in the market and be seen and visible.
right. So what we are talking about is basically speaking the language which clients talk, right? Meeting them at their place, as we say in coaching. And so Suhas, something, I wonder what you talked about, how you don't have to change hats and it's become part of you, right? Being a coach. One of the things which I have heard a lot of people saying is that when you go through this journey, a lot of times there is a bit of feeling that, you have to struggle alone. And how do you really ask for help beyond your mentors and maybe some people who are in your cohort? And I think that power of asking is something which is really wonderful if the coaches or a learner coach is able to incorporate that. Any experience on that from you, because you have been on a corporate side and you are a coach, so what comes to your mind?
Absolutely. And I think you nailed it. This power of asking. And and very many times, even when you don't find your niche and you are still in the business of coaching while you're handling a business, um, very often you are mistaken for a mentor. And there is a distinct, we all know as coaches what is a mentor and what is the difference between a mentor and a coach. But I believe instead of going into that um, journey of explaining why I am not a mentor, I think it's okay to pick that up, and it's okay to pick it up and then turn that into a coaching connection and a coaching connect. And as I think Chatur also mentioned earlier, um, it's okay to not know, because if you're not from that business or not from that niche, it's perfectly okay for a coach not to know. And I think here, brings a true facet of being a business leader or even a coach, which is actually a business in itself, of being vulnerable. It's okay to be, it's okay to not know. And I think that comes from the key aspect of being coach, which is being curious about the client.
Yeah.
So if you're actually curious, you actually become a much better coach. So from moving from a business engagement person to a mentor to a coach, I think that's the journey I normally have seen in my experience, which happens to me most of the time. And I think when the client or the coachee starts realizing, hey, actually Suhas is now getting more curious about me, that's when the transformation happens.
Hmm.
Right.
So I think, Srinath, I just want to bring this aspect quickly, what Chatura and Suhas both spoke about, right? Client confusing us as a mentor or a coach, or they may not know the distinction. And I know you are kind of a in-house expert in ethics. How would you want to quickly talk about that a little and say that, what is our duty as a coach to do that before we move ahead to the next part?
Right. So I think it's important to say that you don't know, right? And ask for help if you need. It's important to be vulnerable in such cases. No harm in us
Hmm.
saying that you don't know if you don't know at all, right?
And also probably contracting accordingly, right? Having a proper contract in place so that they are aware as to what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's important for
right.
that. Being vulnerable as a coach is an important aspect of being a coach.
Hmm.
Which brings me to a question I'd like to ask Bhavani about. So, what shifts do coaches need to make of asking for help as an act of courage, for that matter?
Okay, first
Hmm.
and foremost, a good question, and thanks for asking. I think my initial struggle was, what does rejection mean when you ask for help, right? So I was thinking,
Hmm.
rejection is about them not agreeing or not. And I had a coach. I had spoken to a client once, and I explained what I do, and he says, "I do all this for my team. I don't need you to do this." Okay, and so in the initial days, I would it would shrink me, right? So first you
Yeah,
ask
yeah.
because if you don't ask, you are actually operating in a hallucination.
Hmm.
My take is, asking for help gives you a reality check.
Hmm.
And then you're operating in this hallucination. And for a long time, I was happy being hallucinating, thinking of this, wonderful thing about, I'm going to become a coach and I'm going to do all these wonderful things. But the reality isn't that simple, right? So by asking for help, you actually get a temperature check of your reality. You will know who is actually going to do something for you, who is not.
Yeah,
You will
yeah.
get to realize who is not at all behind you, and who is, doesn't agree with what you're doing in the first place, who is 50-50, who is 100%. Isn't that what data is all about? Don't we want to know that data to make the right decisions? So when
Yeah.
people started telling me, I don't need you to do this, I do it for myself, I started to put it's about you and not about me. Right? But it is my duty, or if I were to use a more a Hindu word, it's my dharma to ask this question. I have to ask. I have a duty to my business to succeed. Right. So then after that, once you overcome this idea of what is asking mean and what rejection means, and you redefine it, then you are on a flow. Okay. So
Yeah.
and then suddenly you realize this, you've got more than you can handle. When I say more than handle, doesn't mean everything converts. I think the biggest thing this coaching journey taught me is patience. If you talk to somebody in
Hmm.
January, they'll become a client in October. So you be patient. So that's a different discussion altogether. But without even opening the channel, how will you even get them into your door, right? So asking is absolutely important. Yeah, and then you give back. So it's an exchange of trust. Asking is an exchange of trust. So the big shift, I think, these are a couple of shifts I would say. You give back, introduce them to somebody, make them feel that helping you is of value to them beyond just the coaching engagement.
Yeah.
Because
I think that point which you made, Bhavani, I would want you to say that again. Asking is the biggest sign of trust, I feel. You trust someone to ask them for help.
Exactly.
Amazing it is. Yeah.
And then when you do that, you realize, okay, and you build your muscle. Asking is a muscle, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you keep thinking, I'm going to ask one day, never gonna happen. Okay, you just have to start. It's like going for sports or going to the gym, you just start. And
Yeah.
eventually the muscle becomes, and your mind becomes conditioned to interpret what rejection means, what body language, when somebody shakes their head when you're asking for something, you learn to manage all of these
Hmm.
in a better way. That's my take.
I think for me, just to add to what you said, Bhavani, something do people really know what you do? That's a question which comes to me, often. If you are not inquiring on that space and you're not telling them, it doesn't look like what Srinath talked about, right? You start with people you know. But I've experienced that even people who know you don't really know what you're doing, how it has changed, because you're not the same person you were 15 years back, and what you're doing now could be very different. I think it's important to keep asking this question to ourselves. Do people within my network know what I do?
Absolutely spot on. And I just want to give one nugget on this. So recently, about maybe during Navaratri, I said, I asked a friend, a very good friend who has been my mirror for a long time. He said, should I start a podcast? And it's still on my, an idea. He said, how much time do you have? You said you wanted to be a coach, and how much time are you actually investing in growing your coaching business? It's kind of, it's going on, it's slow, etc. He says, how much do people know what you're doing? How much have you put out as content to tell the niche you are serving exactly what coaching is for them?
Yeah.
Right. And it was that led me. So I just started a YouTube coaching series, the Evolving Auditor Coaching Series, explaining coaching for auditors. Because until then, I thought it was an obvious thing, but it isn't. So now every 3 days a week, I put out content. And I've also decided that it doesn't be perfect. Today, I recorded a video, and there's the vegetable seller's voice in the background. Who cares? Who cares, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. It's about moving forward.
Yeah.
Right. So, Sutesh, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this aspect of asking for help. So what shifts do you need to make as a coach?
Yeah, so the question sometimes say that's what you're doing, and say I'm doing coaching, and sometimes these when you say coaching, for few people it just goes over the head, and I don't find any other further curiosity. But then when I say explain it in a different language, what the issues, right, and how I help to overcome that, and what the outcome would be, then there is a conversation that you create, and they understand, because people understand the issues and what kind of solutions you need. So that's a language that people understand, and because you don't have to say it's coaching, and that what then finally comes, this is what coaching is, and talking some about the inner details, and it's what I have found sometimes penetrates faster and makes an impression, and creates curiosity.
Thanks, Sutesh. Okay, moving on. I'd like to bring Chatura here. Posting on LinkedIn or sharing a perspective in public really feels vulnerable for the in the initial stages as a coach, right? How do you view the link between vulnerability and credibility as a coach in
Srinath,
trying to
I
become more
lost
visible?
you there, I think, a bit.
Chatura heard me?
I think some issue with connectivity at Chitra.
Srinath, I'm sorry, I lost you.
Okay,
Yes.
no, I'll probably repeat the question then. So I see
Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are able to hear me now. Are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Yes, no.
can hear you, Srinath.
Okay, I'll get back to Chatura later on that case. So, would Suhas or Sutish able to answer this before I go to Chatura on this? It's about posting on LinkedIn. You may feel vulnerable initially. You find it difficult to post it initially, but then it's about being more credible in the in the market, saying that okay, this is some person who's posting something as a coach. So
I
how
think
do you?
I can take that one. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time when you're posting something, those are reflections and also thoughts for your further actions, right? When you're posting something also. And I think the key thing here, when you're being vulnerable, and you need to be credible and bring credibility to the fact what you're posting, is being authentic. if you know that this is what you're posting and what is the impact that you have, because you're speaking, it's like you speaking on a forum, or you saying this something about a particular message that's being posted. I think being you and being authentic about yourself brings that credibility to what you're posting. I think that's very key for me. Every message that I'm sending or putting it on any platform today is me. It's me. And if it doesn't agree with me, I know what the impact will look like. I will not post it. I will not go ahead. That's it's very clear for me.
Thanks, Vas. I want to bring Chatura because Chatura is very regular at posting on LinkedIn. So wanted to hear your thoughts on that, Chatura.
Yeah, thank you, Srinath. So one thing I see when it comes to business, so uh, when I started seeing coaching as a business, so it's important to filter out the ones that inquiries coming to you, basically like whom not to coach. So by posting on the LinkedIn the content or the stuff, so the co-chief or the potential client will filter that out. So the inquiries that come in are filtered to my niche because I'm talking that language. So the person who's talking the same language will
Yeah.
be reaching out to me. So I'm not posing myself as just as a coach, but someone who's an expert in that domain and doing something. Then the inquiries, because one of the biggest challenges in the business is to find leads in any business to get leads. But when you have leads, let's say you have 100 leads and you can coach how many numbers, you have limited time slots available for you to coach. So how can you filter out whom not to coach or whom not to get as clients is something that is very powerfully done by themselves on social media because of the content that we post. So that is something I see it in from the coach's point of view. I'm helping them to filter out and choose the right person. So and also even if there's another coach who's doing in the same domain, still the coachee and the coach, that's why we have the chemistry session to see if if we are glue, if we glue together, if we match together. So share my voice on social media platforms like LinkedIn is going to listen, they are going to hear my voice and see if that resonates with them. So the initial stage of filtering for them will be done at that stage, and then the filtered person will come to me and they know, okay, this is the language this person talks and it is resonates with me and I trust the way that he talks. So I think posting on social media like LinkedIn is helping us as coaches to initially filter out the leads, and the leads that we get will be in the quality of the leads will be much higher so that the conversion rate will go up. So that's where I see when you talk and we share on social media, the our voice will be heard and they will reach out to me when they resonate with the things that we share. So that most probably the chemistry session will work out because they are familiar. They know that we are bonding together, and that's why they are reaching out to the coach or to anyone in that
So I
space.
just want to loop back to what Suhas talked about, right? Thanks, Chatra, for that point. When you put out yourself authentically, I think the first thing you're doing is giving, which Bhavani talked about, right? You're not necessarily saying that if I put this, I should get X clients, but you're starting with giving and saying that this is who I am, this is what I have to offer. And when you see this, and if it gels with you and you align with it, you will come to me and we can have a conversation. But Srinath, you spoke about when you're starting off, there is an apprehension and vulnerability. I think that vulnerability is there even if you are seasoned, person posting on LinkedIn. So I think it comes from that the point of you putting out yourself in front of the world. Anyone and everyone in the world can pick up your post and ask you a question or contradict you or challenge you. I think the point which comes from it is, are we willing to be vulnerable and be willing to change and take into account an opinion which can bring about a shift in our own thinking? And I think that's the joy that I have put out something and someone says something else and I learn from it as a coach. And I think that that's a beautiful space to be in if you're able to adapt to it.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So
Any
what
thought?
about, I just wanted to quickly move to that space of when we talk about all of this, we sometimes start looking at it in terms of success and failure. I put a LinkedIn post, how many likes I've got, how many comments I've got, am I succeeding? Is there movement? I think there is a need to look at this from a different perspective as well. How do we start looking at, let's say, it in terms of not an inadequacy, but something which is taking us forward, some kind of small steps, some milestones. Is there a way we can look at it as part of our growth? Bhavani, any thoughts?
Yeah, I wonder because when you said that, we've all been through that, right? Like only 2 likes, what? So bad. But I think the shift for me, a couple of things happened. One was the fact that I'm building a repository of knowledge that is going to last well beyond one day, one whatever, and it's for future clients. Think of all the future clients who are going to look at my credibility. So it's like, think of it, the analogy that comes to mind is like building a house one brick at a time. Because when you look back and think 35 posts, that's amazing, right? Or like I'm looking at my videos, I'm thinking that's a lot of videos now. Like it was at the beginning, it was like only one, only two. So and maybe no one saw it. It doesn't matter, right? It's your knowledge repository that you're building as part of your credibility and in your offering. And the other thing that also resonated with me, sometime back I attended some webinar, and the person said, he said, you drive on the street and look at the big houses. The big houses are people who give the most value, because typically if you go and see what they do, they're doing something phenomenal that is giving value back to society, which is why the Lakshmi is coming back that way, right? So, maybe one way of looking at YouTube is for those who cannot afford you, cannot even think of coaching, you giving them nuggets of wisdom, some insights. And so if you approach it from that perspective, you will also be generous in what you share.
Yeah, generosity is such an important part of being a coach. I think when we talk about, it's not just our time, but it's also the generosity of accepting them the way they are, right? And that's such a wonderful space of self-evolution, I think, for all of us. Yeah, but I also wanted to talk about failure in a different way. How we think, when we start coaching, or even I was talking to another coach few days back, and I said that I'm suddenly feeling rusty as a coach. And that's where you need these programs like Coaching Unlimited. And I remember those words I had noted down: reset and refresh, which you talked in the beginning. I think that's what we need from time to time at times, right? It's like servicing of an engine. It's still running fine, but how can you make it come back to its own efficiency? I think that's an important part which such programs play, right? Srinath, what's your thought on that?
Oh yes, Mani. In fact, when I did the CU way back in along with you in 22, I was closer to my PCC completion, and then I was very rusty in competencies, and I had taken a break because of my work engagement. But this really pushed me to complete my PCC in about 6 months from then. And so that's a big plus point for me as a result of Coaching Unlimited at that time, right? And then because we look at the competencies and the business of coaching, both are covered in detail and both are essential. As PK always says, they're two sides of a coin. You can't just be good in competencies and be poor in coaching and in marketing your coaching. So I think there's something, it's what you build through the 4 day session which you have as part of CU.
Yeah, and I remember one of the exercises. I mean, I can't forget that I've tried it in my own groups later, is where we were kind of taken through a drill to ask the same question in different ways. And
Oh yes.
that small exercise. So over lunch table, we are sitting and asking the question, and one of the mentors is saying, "Oh, how else can you ask it? How else can you ask it?" And
Yes.
that ability to go deeper and figure out ways to do. I think that doesn't come on your own, or even when you do peer coaching or things like that. So I think that's one place for it to be. Yeah. So any thoughts, Sutish, from your side, how this has helped you maybe look at your early success or failure in different way?
You're talking about in generally how the does help.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, CU was like turbocharge, because I was finishing sort of in the verge of end of the course, and so I was looking at CU more as because one is learning is one thing, the classroom, but how you really, when you get to the playing field, how there are a lot of other things that comes into play, and that's very important. So I looked at in that space, and I think it really helps practically a lot of things, seeing how it really works in the real world, and what it you learn about the process and the ethics and all of it. But when you get to the real world, it's the things are so different, and so that's one thing. And the other was the niche. I had a I think I was really confused. I would try, not really confused. Mostly, I was struggling to find out what my niche should be, uh, because my past experience were quite complex, and so that was really bothering me throughout. And I think that thanks to PK and Subhash who's there, I think they sort of figured out what kind of niche I should take, and so and I, as sort of with time, I feel I'm so pleased with that particular niche that I spoke, that was picked, and having done more research, I'm more convinced than ever before. That's the another thing, and fact that I think if I hadn't gone for the CU and if I had just stopped with the classes, um, the migration from the learning to getting into practical world, and treating as a business, and getting to know what how do you master when in the playing field. So those things, I mean, are moving more sort of smoothly, and feel more confident about it, and so that certainly is thing. So my website is ready, and meeting people, some of the techniques that were sort of taught at this really opening doors for me as well. Some of the sessions, the discovery session, it's really sort of opening up doors. So those are things which I really benefit, and
I think that
it's really,
100-day plan sets you rolling, right? When you have clarity that this
yes.
is when you commit to 100 days of action, and what you're going to do step by step, I think that really makes a
Yes, yes.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that 100 days actually, so much so I was forgetting about ACC exams and doing the website, Uh, that follow-up 100 days was so intense, and but I think that really set you on the path, and it's, that was yeah, um, good. And fact that also you become part of the CU community. So I
Yes.
think when there are times that I sort of reached out to the mentors and in the community, coming into some of the issues when you're dealing and to deal with some of the issues for the first time. So that way, I think I found it quite valuable, and no regrets. I think
Yeah,
is
I
the
think I
best
think all of
answer
us
that
have so many stories to share from this. But I think we have just 5 minutes left from what we
Mani, I
committed. So
just want
Srinath,
to add one thing.
yeah.
Right? So, before CU, I thought, okay, I'm going to become a coach. I get my credentials that I'm going to find my niche. So that was my plan in
Hmm.
the head. Because in coaching, we've learned only if you know the framework, you can coach anyone. But it was like I was like a, let's say, just like a GP, general practitioner doctor, and becoming a consultant in the specific area. So that transition happened over that 4 days, and it was so powerful. And when I found that niche, that day I went home after the third day. And that night I got my domain, I set up my website, I did the content. And when I was going for the fourth day, my website was up
Oh,
in my niche.
wow,
So
that's really amazing
that
speed, I would say.
I
Yeah.
mean, I couldn't sleep because I realized, okay, I was thinking, okay, where to find my niche and how to build it. But that question, there was this question that we answered at the end, we filter out. that made me realize, okay, my foundation is already there, right? My credibility is already there. So I don't have to dig my foundation and build it from the, ground zero. So I already have built certain things, and then I just have to build on top of that. So that happened. That transition made me clear out all these obstacles in front of me. And that's the reason I was able to, write out the content. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. And this is my website. This is my offering. And this is what the client will experience after these many days or after the program. So that clarity came with after the CU, knowing that. And the best example is I went home, I got the domain, I wrote the content for the website, and I was able to make it live and host it. I think 4th day we showed it in the CU also. So that was the power, and that was the transition that happened from CU. So not becoming just a coach, but I knew, okay, which coach I'm going to be, what's my specialty. And that completely changed the game for me. And whenever I post something, whenever I talk about it, now I know, okay, I have to go in this niche. So the path got very clearer, and the clarity came in to my picture. And I agree with Sutish, what Sutish said, that that power at 100 days and all these things. See, you actually transformed me from just a coach to my niche into a speaking and startup coach. So that transition happened, and I never had that idea before, and almost I had it within me, but I never discovered it, or I never reflected on it until I became a part of CU. So
Thanks, Chatra. Yeah, that's quite inspiring actually. So Srinath, how do you want to wrap up? What do you want to leave our listeners with? We have just 2 minutes.
Right. Just 2 minutes. I know Bhavani has got an anecdote about her CU experience. Probably quickly share that, Bhavani, and then we'll probably wrap it.
I think I shared. You mean the fun part of it?
The fun part of it, yes.
Well, I think every CU participant will have their moments of joy. Actually, for us, it was, if I remember very correctly, the things that stayed. Marina Beach visit. Mine was in Chennai, so the Marina Beach. So, by the way, those of you who are keen on CU, the ancillary experiences are also brilliant, right? So we went to Marina Beach. My first experience of Murugan Idli in Chennai. Can never forget. And I remember Karan, who was with us that day, wanted Jigar Tanda, and we walked all over looking for Jigar Tanda. So you will never forget these memories because you're doing it with people who are, think like you, are like you, part of the same community. So that was one very, very nice memory for me.
So you're saying CO is not only serious, it's also fun.
Oh, yes, definitely.
A lot of fun, right?
A lot of fun.
And for the listeners, I just want to share this, quick statistics. There have been 7 editions of Coaching Unlimited so far, and as diverse as, I'm just reading out the locations because I can't remember them. So we had at Yelagiri, Chennai, Bangalore, Mumbai, Jaipur, Colombo, and the 8th one coming up soon, right? So with that thought, thank you so much for participating and sharing your experiences and your views about your journey. And thank you, listeners, for being there and being part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.